Nick Percat, prime spot to be starting this final race of the day. The sun is setting. We've got a pit stop. I mean, how do you see this playing out?
First off, it is nearly bedtime. So this is interesting. And the last time I started in the front row was Townsville 2014. So I'm getting used to staying at the front. It's only been one weekend, but hopefully get off the line cleanly. Look, the car's good in the dry, so hopefully we can run with them. Obviously, qualifying, well, thereabouts. And just looking forward to a good afternoon at the front and hopefully spray some champagne.
We hope you can stay up the front. Good luck, Nick.
Thank you.
It's easy to focus on David Reynolds' performances so far, sitting third in the championship. A little bit further back in this one that he'd like, but Anton De Pasquale, mate. So how happy are you with the performance of the young rookie?
Yeah, it's great. Like, it's we saw him last year and gave him the opportunity, and he's worked his ass off to learn the tracks, and he's just a great kid. He's got a lot of ability, and outside of the car he's got a real good head on him, a lot of focus. He actually understands what he's got to do as a race car driver, which is the first box to tick.
It is a first box to tick, but just the performance in a place like this, first time in a supercar here at a very tricky racetrack, to be as consistent as what he is in performing, in the mid-pack like that and further forward, is you guys must be just stoked with how he's come on so quick.
Yeah, definitely. He's done a lot of work on the simulator at work, which got him up to speed real quick. He got the brake markers quick and all the corners, and top 10 tomorrow is going to be really good. Just to see him start top 10 and Dave on the front row. We just want to see Anton fight with the guys up the front and see what he's got.
This Erebus team punching above its weight. Well done, mate.
Thanks, Greg. Cheers, mate.
Barry Ryan, Erebus, Penrite, and Anton De Pasquale has been a great addition to the championship season with 5 rookies this year. He's one of them, and he's already sitting in a quite decent spot. 17th in the points, early days. I saw he and David Reynolds over in the merchandise area between our 2 races today. And if driver demeanour means anything, he's in a good space, Anton. He knows he's doing a good job out there at the moment. He spent the last couple of years in the Dunlop Super 2 Series driving for Paul Morris, being counselled by Paul. He's got a great background in open wheel racing, including in Europe. And that's a tough theatre of motorsport over there to prove yourself in. So he's got a lot of experience. So at the moment, a dry track. Snapshot is this: the wind's just varying constantly at the moment between the west and the northwest, which means you can see the flags on the top of the pit lane complex there at the moment. There's a bit of weather to the north. We've got a track that's coated in Pirelli rubber after Formula 1 qualifying round 1 of the World Championship. This is the 22nd visit for Supercars to this location, but the first time ever in our history that it's worth championship points, and this is the 3rd race in a 4-race sequence this weekend. Our championship constitutes 31 races, takes us all around Australia, north, south, east and west, including the Northern Territory, and then we pop across the Tasman later in the year as well. We're very much looking forward to going back to Auckland to race in Fukuoka. But right now, the focus is right here in Melbourne. What a great front row of the grid this is, with Scotty McLaughlin leading them away, car number 17. Opportunity here also for Nick Percat. They've had great speed in that car. Strategically got caught yesterday with a problem in their pit stop, but look at that. He'll start off the front row alongside the man that was runner-up in the championship last year. Then on the next row of the grid, Scott Pye. Excellent performance there in the Mobil 1 Boost Mobile Holden Commodore Whincup alongside. Then Tim Slade, another of the Brad Jones Racing Cars, Freightliner on the side of that vehicle, together with Chaz Mostert. Then Fabian Coulthard and Michael Caruso alongside him, who made massive ground in the corresponding race yesterday. David Reynolds and then Craig Lowndes has had an up-and-down weekend. James Courtney and Mark Winterbottom, they'll fight out of positions 11 and 12 on the grid. There's the youngster that we spoke about, Anton De Pasquale, car number 99, Erebus Motorsport. Thermosphere on that car. Look out for him because he's done a mighty job so far. Teammates Plus Fitness Nissan, the Castrol Racing Nissans, and those guys have had a good strong run so far this weekend. Shane Van Gisbergen down the order, 17th in this one, together with Simona Di Silvestro. He came into the championship round as our leader. He's been protecting that lead. He drove well in the previous race earlier today in wet conditions to still bank some valuable points, but he's going to have a progressively tougher run, because not only does he start down the order in this race, Mark, when we have our final race of the weekend tomorrow, he's all the way at the very rear of the field. Good afternoon to you. We're looking forward to this one.
Certainly are, and as you said, it was a complete bookend for Red Bull Holden Racing Team, with Whincup on the front row of the grid for the race tomorrow, and Van Gisbergen on the back of the grid. But I'm looking forward to how this plays out after the Formula One qualifying session. The circuit will be cleaner. The conditions are way better. The speed was essentially 3 seconds slower compared to qualifying yesterday. So this man, who did a 54.6 in qualifying, only did a 57.5 in the race because of the tyre degradation. This, hopefully, with the track conditions nicer and cooler conditions, will actually be faster and better to watch in terms of intensity.
And we may have the Joker card being played by the weather here as well to keep in mind. So compulsory pit stop. The things that we've learned so far this weekend from the dry race yesterday is the tyres will hurt. Anybody that pitted early had a big penalty, even though you may have been able to get some short-term relief with lap speed with the car, which, for example, Craig Lowndes did because he set the fastest lap of the race when he first went back out on a fresh Dunlop super soft tyre. But he was really scrambling at the very end. It looked like a speedway car at the end of it as a result of no grip. The key runners stopped around about laps 13 and 14. Zach Brown, and he's in the garage down there at the moment together with Ryan Walkinshaw, and they're keeping an eye on what's going on in the Mobil 1 Boost Mobile entry. Walkinshaw, Andretti United, and Zach represents the United part of that equation. He's just had a successful qualifying with the new Renault-powered McLaren, and they made it through to Q2 with Stoffel Van Dorn and Fernando Alonso. But our focus now is going to be all about supercar racing. Macaulay Jones with his dad, Brad, and there'll be plenty of grins in that garage at the moment based on seeing one of their cars start off the front row, and they'll have everything crossed to make sure that that continues. Ryan Story in the garage, Shell V-Power Racing, Dick Johnson Racing Team Penske. Tim Cindric is here this weekend, the president of Team Penske. They've got a busy period coming up with the Indianapolis 500 in May. Testing commences shortly for that. So a lot of international interest and focus when you consider team principals from Formula One here, IndyCar team managers here. Right now, a lot of focus on these cars. I've had a lot of international friends and visitors talking up our fabulous contests that we're seeing week in and week out, where some of the best operators in the world, the best drivers, young athletes, great teams, great cars, great sound, great look. It's been fantastic. 100%. Continue to roll that trend out. The thunderous roar of supercars, the third race here in Melbourne this weekend. Race number 5 of our championship season is underway. Nice job, Scotty McLaughlin. Beautiful conversion. Have a look at the Red Bull car. Whincup had to take to the pit lane exit. He got forced over there by Percat, who locks the front brakes. Whincup has got through. Great performance by McLaughlin to convert beautifully off the line. He's allowed Scott Pye to get through into second, Whincup to third, and Percat having to protect with what I suspect is now flat spots on those fronts.
And if you don't think the 7-time champion Whincup is desperate to win the races, check that one out from the start. Across the grass, they're down the inside. Percat locked the wheels, and he got across in front. So a great immediate jump and a very aggressive approach. This is a great run also for Scott Pye. He did a good job to get through there cleanly.
That image of Whincup getting forced across by Percat, ultimately, I thought he was going to the grass, but he used a bit of that pit lane exit to be able to do it, to avoid contact. Wild stuff. Now, the light's low out there at the moment, which is making the orange lights in behind the screens look even more intense, and that signifies, for those that don't regularly follow supercar racing, they're on the Dunlop Super Soft tyre. It's the softer of the two variations that are available in the field. There's Percat. We'll chase up whether or not there's any flat spots on those front tyres, because they were cold and locked up hard on the run into turn number 1. McLaughlin's got control by just over 3/4 of a second from Scotty Pye. This is a great performance from Pye. Then Whincup, then Percat, then Coulthard, Reynolds, Slade, Mostert, Caruso and James Courtney just inside the 10. All line astern out of 13. Look at the crisscross on here as Courtney vigorously defends from Lowndes. Tander in behind. They had an engine fire and an airbox fire, I should say, in that car of Garth's earlier in the weekend, which is one of the reasons why he qualified so poorly for that earlier race. They bent a butterfly. Look at this, car's going every which way, and Tander chases Winterbottom all the way to the pit wall, but he's not going to be able to do anything about the Bodlow entry. They're rubbing mirrors on the run to 1. And
off
through the grass goes McLaughlin. This will be a change for the lead. Pye is now the leader in Melbourne. So McLaughlin, a big mistake. That's costly. And they're all rounding him up. The new order. Pye, Whincup, Percat, Coulthard, McLaughlin drops back in. This is going to stir things up.
McLaughlin's lost 5 spots. This is the same thing that Whincup did in the previous race in the rain, but the much bigger ramification because he's gone off through the grass. There goes Pye, there goes Whincup. Percat also got through, and Davey Reynolds was in front. Obviously just got across into turn 3. So that's gone back to position 6 from position 1. Now Pye, can he hold the 7-time champion off? This is ultimate pressure. Little look there from Courtney down the inside of Caruso. They were very good yesterday. Both guys made huge ground in this race, in the longer race yesterday. They were man of the match, 10 positions and 12 positions respectively. But Pye, great job. A little mistake there from McLaughlin.
Watch this replay of the start.
Van Gisbergen.
This is Shane Van Gisbergen back in 17th position. And this is the craziness that goes on. So Shane's gone around the outside as they all bottle up down the inside to try and make ground. The problem is you often get a hip and shoulder when you're out wide. He got away with it. That's Dick Pasquale just in front of him. You can't even get to fully advanced 100% throttle there. There's so much traffic. And then he tries to feed down the inside. That doesn't work. So now the roundup process. This is turn 3. Bang, bang, bang. Someone's rattling, doing Morse code on the back of it. Now watch car number 1, left-hand side of screen, row 2. Watch Whincup. He gets chased onto the grass, into the pit lane exit, pops out the other side, and believe it or not, he survived to tell the tale.
Well, it was a bit cheeky of Percat too, because you can run them to the edge of the road, but you can't run them off the road. So at that stage there, Jamie was coming by and there wasn't enough room to get the car through. Watch this now. This will show it. Fantastic. Here's the jump. So you're on board with McLaughlin. Look to the left of your screen. And there's the wild move for Whincup. And then check the wheels lock. You don't often see both front wheels locked as savagely as that for Percat. Wow, what a start. And they all get through. This was a really good job by Whincup to get across the front of Nick Percat. And you can see the sliding and bumping. We're on board with Van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen gained 3 spots, Reynolds 3 spots, and Stenaway 6 spots on the opening lap.
Bit to keep us amused out there at the moment. Great. Race number 5, the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. It was a quality display yesterday afternoon, and it's another one right now. We've still got strategy to play out in this race with a compulsory stop. And as I look out the commentary box window to the north, there's still the threat of weather. Now, Tim Slade doing very good sector splits in the first sector at the moment. Check this for a shot. That's a tonne and a half, just casually running into turn 11 at about 250 kilometres an hour. Nose to tail, times 26. It's great action.
So what's going to happen here is Pye arguably won't make the tyres live quite as well as Whincup. So he'll slow this field down. So one of the things that's very difficult around here, although we say there's a couple of passing spots, it's hard to construct a really good, effective pass. And at the moment, Pye's got better pace than Whincup, so it'll bunch this front group right through to Mostert, who's basically only two seconds away.
That shot across the top of Melbourne, across the central business district, the Yarra River, and then out towards the northwest was telling. You can see a lot of grey sky out there and 1 or 2 dark spots, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Meantime, it's exactly 0.58 of a second between Scotty Pye and Jamie Whincup. Then it's Nick Percat. Then it's Fabian Coulthard, David Reynolds now. McLaughlin settled back into 6th. He'll be kicking himself about that mistake. And remember that Whincup had a couple of near misses down there earlier on as well. So that's been a popular trick this weekend, and it's easily done with these cars. They pull up from about the 150-metre mark, and this is a place that's very punishing on brakes. It's hard to pull up and stop here, and they are doing 255 kilometres an hour on the run to turn 1. Fastest lap of the race has been recorded by Chaz Mostert, a 157.44. And there's a spread, believe it or not, from 1st to 8th at the moment, the arc of 3.6 seconds. Here's the shot from turn 10. If anything, Pye's actually got a slightly bigger cushion at the moment. That car is working very nicely around here at the moment. Look at it. So this will be a little bit of a waiting game as well for everybody. How hard do I push? How much energy do I take out of the tyre? What can I or can I not get away with? McLaughlin's using a lot of road there. He can't do that too often. He's got Mostert tucked right in behind. There's something not right going on there. So maybe he could have damaged the tyre also. Yep. So there's a question mark over tyres for Percat. There's a question mark over tyres also for McLaughlin. And that's the thing that I was fretting about before. So just to the northwest up towards Melton, you can see up towards Melbourne Airport, and to the western side of Port Phillip Bay you've got Avalon as well, and there's one or two spots around the edge of the bay at the moment that are getting wet, I understand. Back to the racing action, looking rearward towards Chaz Mostert from the bumper of Scotty McLaughlin on the run down towards turn 1.
Now, as you said, this group has bunched up because Mostert's actually quite aggressive in behind McLaughlin, and Slade hasn't backed off out of it either. Then Caruso's going to join the party. So you're going to end up with roughly 10 cars. Courtney's right in behind Caruso too. You're going to end up with a train of 10 cars. Now that mistake, consider this, the battle all year between McLaughlin and Whincup. It come down to the wire, the last lap of Newcastle. It was 21 points in the end, that margin. That mistake just there in a 100-point race just cost him 32 points. First to sixth, 32 points.
Scapey, I'm hearing radio calls at the moment. Drivers are seeing spots of rain on their windscreens, and we're also having it confirmed. Teens where the popular moves were made for compulsory pit stops. Anybody that pitted early tended to get hurt. Those that pitted late got a very definite speed gain, but they had a traffic congestion problem to deal with as a result of it. So though they had quick cars, they had a wall of vehicles in front of them that really negated the benefit.
Couldn't use it, could they? No, exactly. Now, if you remember, Lowndes stopped on this lap yesterday and smashed the tyres. It wasn't just about the lap that he stopped, but he went straight out and did the fastest lap of the race at that time. Now, the rest of the field were actually backing it off. They drove the cars to decrease the degradation. They drove them without sliding them and didn't drive them to their ultimate potential for one-lap speed.
Now, David Couchy just told Jamie Whincup, front bar up if it'll cop it. Now, what he means by that, I want you to stiffen the front of the car up to just protect the rear. So if it doesn't generate too much understeer and the car will cope with it. Look at this, we've got a battle on the run towards turn 3 here as well, because Coulthard's starting to get racy around the back of Percat. And now having a look up on the outside of him.
Can he hold? No, he can't. McLaughlin's battling there with Mostert, so his pace is ordinary. We're just hearing also spits of rain from pit lane. So
there'll be spits of rain in the commentary box if that happens, because that's going to change the game completely. And there'll be people trying to figure out how long you stay out there for. Do you go to a wet? You can't pull that trigger too early either, because the problem with doing that is it might actually only be brief, and then you're going to get back onto a dry at some point. That'll make for some real nail biting, but we've got a scorcher of a race going on at the moment. Half a second. The tiniest margin between Scott Pye and Jamie Whincup.
Now, you know, if I'm Scott Pye, I'm going, please, Fabian, keep on battling with Percat, because what that's done is it's taken the pressure out of the battle for the lead. So that was a really bunched up field. That gap now between Percat and Whincup is 2.2 seconds. The next battle is the one that's really energised.
Is it ever? Now, what a great performance so far from Nick Percat, who this weekend is being engineered by Andrew Edwards from Brad Jones Racing. His regular engineer, Paul Scalzo's off at a family wedding, and he's been energised all weekend. He's had pace in the wet, he's had pace in the dry. We probably had an opportunity to see him further up the field, but for a rattle gun problem yesterday as well. There's Andrew. Julian Stannard with the beard in the centre of screen. And Andrew just clasping his forehead there at the moment, because there's a bit of tension in this process when you've got a car up near the front. He normally has the senior engineering role, the overarching role in the team, and he's on the tools this weekend and he's doing very well. This is the onboard with his teammate Tim Slade, Freightliner Racing, and Tim's in 8. He's in behind Chaz Mostert.
And the car looks good. It's actually got less oversteer than McLaughlin and Mostert's car. So again, the pace for Fabian, very good. He's a master around here. He's very good. He's a left foot breaker. He flows the car really nicely. So he's trying to get by Percat. Dave Reynolds has got a little watching brief on what happens with that one. And right in behind, McLaughlin's being harassed by Mostert with Tim Slade right in behind. Slade's got the least amount of oversteer of that group of cars.
So, come on, what do you do here, MS? What do you do? Do you stay out there? Do you extend your run? Who's spotting for the teams on the roofs of buildings around here? Is there anybody in a nearby postcode giving you a weather update? How long do you want to run these Dunlop Super Soft tyres for? Because they're tapering big time in lap speed at the moment.
For sure, you're trying to contact the bloke in the chopper. That'd be A. B, you'd be trying to call everybody on the northern suburbs. Just what's happening at your place? I know what's happening here is it's about to unfold into a mad brawl, because when the stops start, we're just getting into that phase or window of stops. But as you said, you cannot make a mistake with this. You cannot come back in and have to put wets on, Larko.
Well, you know, when you look where we are right now and how successfully the undercut worked yesterday, all those guys bunched up in that top 10 there. What you're going to have to get in front here is to dive in early. Now, I'd be willing to earlier, maybe 8 or 9, and as I speak, now, one of the shell.
Right, okay, thanks, Larko. We've got a little audio problem there. Apologies, we'll come back to you later, but we think that we're going to see one of the shell cars in early, was the subtext of some of that, and that's what we've also heard on the radio. We'll keep an eye out for it. They're laying up and getting ready in the garage. That might be for 17, I reckon.
See 17, I was trying to look for the number on the tyre.
Yeah, it is 17, boys. Came out. Obviously, he went straight past. Just been looking at some of the data that's coming in there for 17. I reckon they're bringing him in early because I think the left front tyre might be pressured a little bit too high. I reckon it's too high, and he's having drama with all the right-handers, which obviously is the majority of this racetrack. So I reckon they're trying to bring him in to settle that down. Looking at the number 12's information, he hasn't got that same issue.
That's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
strange.
It's weird one. 4 seconds off the lead at the moment. Fabian Coulthard back on board with Tim Slade. He's 8th. He's in front of Michael Caruso. James Courtney's in 10th. And just up the road here, not very far, is Chaz Mostert. Great battle. All of these guys at the front are fully maxed out, but they're beginning to slide. So the tyres are starting to hurt. He's got the fastest lap of the race, Chaz Mostert, which I mentioned earlier. And this guy on screen in the Tempur Holden Commodore ZB, brand new car, he's on for a potential podium at the moment. Now, when you consider his best ever here in Melbourne at the Grand Prix event has been a 9th previously, this is a big step up in form for Nick Percat. He's been an Adelaide 500 winner. He's been a Bathurst winner. He's had great success at Mount Panorama, and he might stitch together something pretty special for this team here this afternoon on current numbers.
We've got scanners on all of the cars for their radios, Neil and I listening in. And there's some drama with McLaughlin's radio from the sound of what's going on. So will he come in now? Everyone was out there, and he's not coming in now. So
Mostert is, though.
Mostert is. And I think that's a good call.
Well, he was in a line of traffic, so potentially being slowed up. Now, it's earlier than those around him, so it doesn't really matter what the lap number is. It's earlier than those around, so there's an immediate benefit from the grip that he'll get. Can he make the car work and the tyres work nicely to the end of this race? Now, that means that they've had to put their eggs in that basket. If it does unload weather-wise, they have to go onto a wet. So they've blinked. Murph?
Yeah, Ryan Story just confirmed no radio on 17. He's got no acknowledgement. I don't know if he can't hear them or they can't hear him, one or the other, but I would say it's obviously he can't hear them. They're just pulling out the pit board, believe it or not, to give the 17 a signal. They wanted him in. They absolutely wanted him in on either of those laps, and he's gone straight past.
Hey, Murph, what do they do? Do they do New Zealand speak on that? Like, come in now, bro, or what do you think?
I think there's a picture of a sheep.
Right.
On the back of the pit board. Thanks, mate. Look how tight this margin is. There's nothing in it. There is Scott McLaughlin, the driver that we're speaking about in car number 17, Shell V-Power Racing, is currently sitting in 6th. They're trying to construct a way of getting a message to him at the moment so they can hang out the old-fashioned pit board like we used to in the old days.
Exactly. Now, what we haven't done is given Scott Pye a big enough rap, because we've been battling with this group between Percat through to Lowndes, from 3rd through to 10th. But at the moment, Scott Pye has held off Whincup beautifully, driving the car really well, nice and straight, and this is a very positive sign for Walkinshaw Andretti United. fact, Zach Brown will be in the garage thinking, wow, this is a cool way of me seeing these cars for the first time. He's got the car really straight, Neil. A little bit of oversteer there at the end of the corner, but he made the apex really nicely in terms of just getting the throttle on and keeping the momentum up.
Now, Fabian Coulthard and David Reynolds have come in together with Michael Caruso on lap 10 of 25, so a little bit earlier than some of them yesterday.
This is going to be close with Mostert. Oh.
Go, mate, go.
What was that last little thing there? There was like a... There was a little drama there at the end of that stop.
I was looking in another direction, so that's Coulthard now making his way out of the pit lane. Reynolds, Caruso, Waters, LeBrock. Pye's got 0.48 of a second.
And Coulthard was delayed maybe 2 seconds. The right front would not come off, so he was very, very slow getting that changed. And away, 17 is now getting ready to come in. I assume that he's seen the pit board. He's got 2 left-hand greens going on 17 as well, green tyres for the left-hand side.
Thanks for the update, Greg Murphy, Mark Larkin, Rihanna Crean, and Chaz Mostert and Fabian Coulthard not even close. So Chaz has disappeared down the road. Benefit of the undercut plus the delay on the pit stop for them for car number 12 as we join Scott McLaughlin, runner-up in the championship last year, with a fistful of race victories and a bigger fistful of pole positions for Armour All. But he's got his hands full this afternoon. He's got a comms problem, an ill-handling car, and he may well have a flat spot into the bargain.
For sure.
Apart from that, things are fantastic.
Yeah, well, dumped 32 points at the start, so he wouldn't be a happy camper at the moment. So here he is, and we're hearing that he's definitely set up to come in this time.
Now Mostert with those fresh tyres has just done the fastest first sector split as well.
Here he comes.
So Scott Pye's come in, Jamie Whincup's come in. Race leader. That's a critical stop, and he feeds out behind McLaughlin, who's about to take his first and only stop. And this is Whincup. Pretty clean.
I reckon Whincup's lost ground to Scott Pye in the pit there.
The Walkinshaw stop looked good.
Yep. They actually were the fastest in our Pertec pit stop challenge. They were the fastest car.
Now, watch out for Mostert here, because he'll benefit from the undercut, but he's going to have to deal with older tyres in this process. So here comes Scott Pye, car number 2. Walkinshaw Andretti United. Very likely that Michael Andretti's on the other side of the planet at the moment watching this from the US. Probably heartened by the pace that he's seeing. Here comes Chaz Mostert. There's Jamie Whincup. So big ground made by the Super Cheap Auto Racing Ford Falcon and the Tickford Racing entry. Car number 55. The problem he's got, by advancing that stop early, he's got to make tyres last to the end.
And that gap, which was almost nothing coming into the pit, Neil, between Pye and Whincup, has gone out to 2.5 seconds. So good gain in the pit there for Walkinshaws. And the way now, in terms of ensuring that you don't use the tyre too hard at the start of this segment of the race, the way now to make the tyres live is not try too hard too early. Lowndes did it yesterday. It destroyed the tyres. He had nothing left at the end. Can Whincup run him down? We'll know very shortly.
So we've got roughly half the field that stopped and the other half to process. Percat's still out there. He leads from his teammate Slade. Now, they typically like to run longer at Brad Jones Racing.
Yep.
Now, and that's a generic description because obviously lots of different tracks and lots of different circumstances. They like the notion of grippier tyres later. But what they'll be looking at is the current trend lines and where their cars are trending in lap speed and who they'll fight when they put it back out there on decent rubber, and can they clear them? Larko.
Yeah, and just thinking about Brad Jones hanging out there, Neil, and looking up here at the clouds coming this way, probably the most threatening one is sort of heading our direction. It might not make it before the end of the race. Hard to tell, but I reckon that Mostert strategy was good, and I'm sorry I lost my audio there before. I was going to say, because it is so much cooler today, isn't it, than yesterday. We know the undercut works. We know that you lose about 0.25 of a second, quarter of a second per lap of tyre degradation. I'd suggest it's not going to be that much today. And remember, that's cumulative sometimes. It doesn't happen straight away. It might happen towards the back end of the race. So I'd say well done, Chaz Mostert. And I'm surprised Moore didn't do it to get him out of that top 10 gravy train that was going on early.
We weren't worried about your audio not being a goer. In fact, we thought it was good.
Peaceful is a word that pops to mind.
I agree, Marco. That's actually, from a Mostert standpoint, there's the weather.
That doesn't look nice.
No, it doesn't.
So 2-lap difference between car 55, car 1 and car 2. So Scott Pye stopping on lap 10. Jamie Whincup stopping on lap 10. Chaz Mostert stopping on lap number 8. But a big variance in the stop times as well, because Whincup's time was 7.8 seconds. Mostert and Pye were roughly 6 seconds each. So that's a fair gap. There was nothing obvious about the Whincup stop, but he did have to go out around McLaughlin on the way out, didn't he? Here is Scotty.
He did. But Caruso's also jumped them in this, hasn't he? It's the bit that I've missed.
Now,
because Caruso's jumped McLaughlin. He wasn't there before.
$3,000 fine. Loss of 30 teams' points for an unsafe pit stop, car number 9, David Reynolds. So he's in 15th at the moment. That's not good news for Erebus and Penrite. And here is Nick Percat, car number 8.
He was pretty lively to get that thing in first gear and get it back out on there, wasn't he? He had some wheel spin going on that concrete apron. It's very motivated to get that Brad Jones Commodore back out there. So we're on board now with Scott. Gives us a great guide as to the body language of the car we're on board with, but also the Nissan Altima of Michael Caruso. Can you get down the inside here? Ooh, we had a little half look. And he ran the car into the corner slower and made the apex later, which gave him that run on Michael. Michael had higher mid-corner speed. Here's the rejoin for Percat. And here comes Fabian. What does Fabian do? Does he back it off just a little bit and then get a run? That's his only way of doing it. He's out in the marbles now. He's out in the marbles. That was actually good driving by Percat. He forced him out there. And now he's going to battle to get that move made. Tyres still cold.
And he has to pull it up early, Percat, with those tyres under pressure. But he's done a nice job of blocking and covering to turn 3. This is a great battle. Percat has just come out of the pit lane right in front of Fabian Coulthard. Meantime, Scott McLaughlin, Coulthard's teammate, is tucked in behind Michael Caruso. Tim Slade is the leader of the race. He's got a 3-second margin over James Courtney, so they're running long, and so is Shane Van Gisbergen, Will Davison, Rick Kelly, Tim Blanchard, Lee Holdsworth. And then the first in the queue that stopped, and has got tremendous pace today, and he might be able to go on with it on current numbers. He's got a 2.8-second margin, is Scott Pye. He's currently in 8th position in the Mobil 1 Boost Mobile Holden Commodore, and he looks the business at the moment as Tim Slade peels out of the lead of the race into the pit lane.
Yeah, Pye has extended that lead. It was 2.5 seconds. As you said, it's 2.8 now. Great shot on the way into turn 11. So Tim Slade, who was the leader, has now been processed. That's James Courtney at the same time. It's going to be an interesting rejoin with those guys too. Rick Kelly is in there.
So they've left Van Gisbergen outmarked together with Lee Holdsworth, but Tim, James, that is Slade, Courtney, Davison, Rick Kelly. We saw Tim Blanchard. That bunch of cars have all come in. Now, bad sportsmanship car also for flag, I should say, for car number 33 for exceeding track limits, and that's down at turn 9. So there's only 2 cars now to do their compulsory stop. Clouds continuing to build. There was a 30% chance of thunderstorms through until 11 o'clock tonight in Melbourne. And there's a bit of weather brewing out there at the moment. We might get this one away. We're at half distance now. And they might survive the weather. Lowndes rounding up Tim Slade on the run towards turn 1.
Good job.
He barely got that turn. Stopped and turned, trying to make sure that he cleared car number 14. So a little bit of pit lane contact here between Rick Kelly and Will Davison as they make their way into the fast lane in the case of car number 15. And the new fastest lap of the race, by the way, Scott Pye's achieved at 1 minute 56.9. He's further opened that lead mark out to 3.2 seconds over Jamie Whitcup. He's got enough pace now, so unless there's weather or he makes a mistake, if he can just keep that thing square at the moment, he's going to bag a victory and potentially 100 points on the streets of Melbourne this afternoon, based on these current lap speeds that we're seeing.
So I've done him a disservice because I thought at the start that he wasn't going to have the race pace of Whitcup, but they've certainly showed me otherwise. Great job by Robbie Starr, the engineer for Scott Pye, and the way they've worked this weekend. 3.2, as you said, is now the gap. Was 2.5 when he first came out. So he's got genuine pace. Richie Stanaway there battling with Andre Humgartner. They're down in 17th and 18th.
And boys, we know how confidence is such a powerful tool. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to Scott Pye. I was talking to him earlier, and he's just really, really happy with the way that car is performing. They turned it around a little bit from Thursday to Friday. That's why his performance in qualifying was so much better. But he's just happy and enjoying driving. It says, if I had a car like this all the time, I know what I could do with it. It's just that confidence factor, isn't it? But at the moment, he's driving it to absolute perfection and using every single bit of the speed that he's got. It's really good to watch.
It is good to watch, I agree. And you know what it's like, Murph, when you do have that confidence and a little bit of pep in your step, it makes a large difference to the approach you have and the mentality and the feedback and all the things, how early you are to the racetrack, how late you leave, all the things that make a difference.
Here we go. Yeah. Will Davison getting stuck into it here with Jack LeBrock in the last couple of corners. Oz PT on the side of the Techno Autosports entry. James Courtney, who's just got new tyres on that car, has just done the fastest middle sector of the race. Campbell Little on the radio to Jack LeBrock saying be careful of the downshifts on the gear changes to Jack LeBrock, just making sure that he doesn't end up feeding too many revs in the lower gears on the run into these corners.
Which you tend to do.
Which is easy to do when you're engrossed in a huge battle and you're doing everything you can to stop, using everything in terms of engine braking together with braking performance in the car. It's easy to get carried away, and the engine builders don't like it.
No, they don't. You feed them a gear early just to try to use the engine to slow the car, and that doesn't necessarily bode well in terms of engine life. Here we go. So there's some bump and grind with Courtney and Lowndes. You don't often see that. You don't often see Lowndes being pushed off the road. Straight down the inside for James Courtney. They made contact on the turn in there. Yeah.
It's looking across Williamstown, across the Port Phillip Bay. Beautiful evening here in Melbourne. It's about 23 degrees there at the moment. There's the last stopper, Shane Van Gisbergen, and further down the lane, Lee Holdsworth stopping as well. That means that everybody in the field, there's Lee, Preston Hire entry, they've done their stop. And Van Gisbergen's going to have the benefit of very good tyres, and depending on who he's racing, he's going to vault up the order here. Scott Pye, meantime, has got 3.4 seconds over Jamie Whitcup. That's what the margin looks like, looking backwards up Walker Straight. There's Jamie Whitcup, there's Chaz Mostert, position 3. So Mostert's claimed that spot over Nick Percat in the process. Then Coulthard, then Caruso, McLaughlin, Reynolds, Winterbottom, Slade. And then I think Van Gisbergen's going to drop in here just in front of Lowndes. Will he survive Craig? Probably. Yeah, he's got fresh tyres on there, so he might hang on to this. I don't know that Craig's got an awful lot of grip there at the moment.
And verbatim over the radio, Craig Lowndes said, James Courtney is absolutely out of control. He just run me off the road, God forbid. And there was a little bump there between his teammate, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they just had a little rough up on the run into turn 3 there, Lowndes and Van Gisbergen. So can Scott Pye claim this victory? Car number 25, I just heard them talking about on race control radio, is going to get a 5-second penalty after the incident with Craig Lowndes.
I thought he was up far enough, but we didn't get any other angles, so that's a hard one to read.
Now this is looking from Shane Van Gisbergen's car at Craig Lowndes on the run to turn 3. And then that just meant that Craig had to step out of the throttle and open up the steering slightly. He had Garth Tander in behind him. Keep in mind, though, they're painted differently. They're both from the same organisation. They did go wheel to wheel. And hopefully no steering damage on either of those cars. So Courtney, who's just done an impressive job in terms of sector splits, now has a 5-second penalty hanging over him in position 11. Meantime, his teammate Scott Pye is increasing his commanding position in this race. He's out to 4.06 seconds as a margin over Whincup. Now there's a little bit of lightning in that stuff as well, we're hearing. Now Scott Pye, his previous best at this location was a 5th, and in terms of championship he's had a couple of second places, so he's staring down the gun barrel of a breakthrough victory in supercar racing. That is an incredible carrot for Scott Pye and this team. And look at Slade down the inside. And these guys are in a big battle here at the moment for 9th and 10th, Tim Slade and Mark Winterbottom. So if Pye can stitch this together, it's significant for a whole range of reasons. His first victory, potentially. Look at that. There's a threat for you. That's what everybody was holding off for, hoping that they weren't going to have to deal with that. And I tell you what, it's far enough from the end of this thing with 9 laps remaining that if it does open up like it did this morning when the tap was turned on at about 5 minutes past 10 local time, it was wild.
Wow.
So chopper out to the west, an aircraft just on approach to Melbourne Airport. They'll see what they need to see on radar. These guys are going to figure it out by the seat of their pants and what's on their windscreen. Slightly different deal in a supercar.
No doubt about that. And when you consider the length of this track at 5.3k, it can be damp in one section and totally dry in another.
So the temperature out there was still reasonable when we walked inside the commentary box. At last glance, it was about 23 degrees. There's a bit of residual warmth in the track. It was about 5 degrees warmer than the air temperature, but out our commentary box window at the moment, it's having a cry. It's wet out there at the moment. So do you get away with it? We've all spent time on warm, slick tyres on a track that's getting wetter. You can survive for a little while, but can you survive for 8 laps? That is a big question. And do you take a risk? Do you come in and stick a wet on and see whether you can bolt over people? Now, Courtney gets stuck into the side of Tim Slade. Courtney wants to try and claw back the 5 seconds that he'll have donged onto him at the end of the race. The race has been declared wet, so they're permitted to come in and grab wets if they choose to. It's raining outside the commentary box window. That's Paul Martin from Supercars in the motorsport department. And you can see how wet it is on the road there. Here's the replay of what Courtney did to Slade through the last corner. He rattled down the inside of him. He might even get in trouble for that one, because displacing the car in front and taking advantage sometimes gets a slap. We'll see.
So Percat is right up in behind Mostert. Pye still right on 4 seconds is the gap from first to second. Mostert and Percat latched together. Fabian Coulthard, Michael Caruso, Scott McLaughlin in 7th. Percat looks pacey. Car looks nicely balanced. He's got a nice flow going. He'll need to do, as you can see there, you can see those numbers. He's made a lot of ground on Chaz Mostert based on the tyre quality and the car balance in the last 4 or 5 laps.
Off
the road almost.
Just about bowled a wide down there at turn 11. So the wet is increasing out there at the moment, and Mostert done the full sprint car exit off turn 12. He had it completely sideways. He would have been close to the lock stops trying to gather that one. And he survived it. Pye is still the leader by 4.9 seconds. We've got 8 laps remaining. Check out the replay. Have a look at Chaz Mostert. Look at the steering angle. He actually got onto the AstroTurf on the exit of the corner as we go back and find our 5th place, Fabian Coulthard, who's under assault at the moment from Michael Caruso.
I'll tell you what he did do is he got the opposite lock off. Have a look how hard it's raining down here, Neil. It's right in front of us. They're coming by us now. It's raining hard.
This is a horror story. There's nothing worse than a slick tyre on a fully wet track. You get away with it for a while, but you won't get away with it forever. And that's exactly what's happened to the GRM car there of James Golding, who's been slowly but surely sneaking up on it this weekend, learning about the track, learning about the car. I spent time having a chat to him between races today. This is the onboard view from the race leader, Scott Pye. There's so much at stake. 4.9 seconds is the gap between Pye and Whincup.
He's made ground on Whincup.
We've got some people that are pitting, others that are at the moment taking the gamble. I can hear conversations on the radio. It's much wetter in pit lane, which, by the way, is a huge risk because the concrete's slipperier than the asphalt. They're bringing, or potentially bringing, Whincup or Van Giers in. They're ready for it, whatever the case. But on this side, on the southern side of the circuit, it's demonstrably wetter than the northern side at the moment. So the radios have lit up as they all talk about what they might or might not do. For example, Tander's talking about, it's your choice. Figure out what you want to do.
I think you stay. At the moment, I reckon the worst of that has come through. I reckon you've got to brave those conditions. I know that sounds weird, but I reckon you've got to hang, Larko.
Oh, well, I tell you, Scapey, I reckon it's a roll of a dice because we've just got that one, but just look up in the sky. Actually, the worst shower is about 5 minutes away, so you might go with it now and you might get a benefit at the end, but a really hard call.
Nice move, Michael Caruso. He's just put a move on Fabian Coulthard. That moves him up into 5th spot. He's had great success here, and up and down the pit lane at the moment. They're talking to drivers saying, what do you think? They can barely drive the things at the moment. They'll be hanging on by their fingernails. They wouldn't have time to process much of what's going on. And Fabian now has had enough. It's in for wets for him in car number 12. Mostert's in as well. So teams are laying up. There's our race leader, Scott Pye, 4.9 seconds over Whincup at the moment. So look at that, he's clean bowled half the crew there getting in. Remember I said how slippery the concrete is when it's wet.
Oh, he's got the wheels locked too. Actually, that was a good bit of driving by Fabian. Remember, no ABS on these cars. He had to do some brake modulation, and there's McLaughlin with a double stack. So he's been really hurt. Tander's in. You can see Tander slide towards the guys too. There's those witness marks of tyre slide. So that apron is so slippery. They're almost all in except 12 cars. So 14 have decided to jump in.
Well, if you're in the back half of the field, you may as well take a gamble because you've got nothing to lose. Going home telling everybody that you're 25th, there's nothing to wave the party hat for. So that's the reason why they're doing it. So if you can afford the risk, you take it. But if you're at the front of the field, it's a much tougher medicine to swallow because there's so much more to lose, and that's the reason why Pye and Whincup are battling on. But it is a nasty mess out there at the moment on Walker Straight. It's just about fully wet. I'm looking at it right outside the combox window, and when you see plumes beginning to come up from the tyres, you know that it's not good out there. That's typically the signal when you've got to be on a wet. If there's no plume, you can get away with being on a slick tyre. So watch those on a wet now plough into these up the front of the field.
6 laps remaining. Here's the slide.
Looking
that's Tander. Look, that's what I said.
He's almost gone into the garage.
He's almost gone into the garage. He's locked the wheels and just basically slid straight.
He's grabbed some of his crew there in that process too. The other thing that was obvious on that shot was McLaughlin having to sit there and time burning while he waited for Fabian Coulthard.
Now the Courtney has done a tremendous job. I know he's got the penalty, but he's come by all those guys. He's very good. He's very good in these conditions, James Courtney. He's very brave. He's got great car control. He's always been good when it's like this.
Pit lane penalty for Richie Stanaway for exceeding the pit lane speed limit, car number 56. His tough weekend's getting tougher. Here's our race leader. 3.1 seconds is the gap to Jamie Whincup. You can't even see J-Dub in the plume behind car number 2 at the moment. And then those lights, Percat in the mist, position number 3, 6 seconds off the lead, 2.7 seconds behind Jamie Whincup. There is James Courtney that you spoke of. They're battling for light out there at the moment. They're battling for visibility, and Van Giers comes in together with Michael Caruso.
And get the times right, because we're doing roughly 15s and 16s at the front of the field. Remember, we started out doing 56s, so we're 20 seconds slower at the moment. But when the wet guys go out, what's the time gain? What's the wet weather tyre do for you in comparison with the slick? Here, watch Caruso. Caruso's in now, and bang!
He's also overshot.
No, not by a little bit. He's almost a full car length past the garage.
I'm surprised as many of them have been caught.
And why haven't they been told?
Yeah, because I haven't heard anything about that, or very little of it on the radio. But it's an absolute known. You know that these pit lanes are ultra greasy when it rains. We're back on board here with...
Whoa! hang on.
Pye, you're going to need a miner's light to see in there soon. Look how bright the dashboard is in the thing. It's dark out there. We've got 5 laps remaining. This guy is fighting for his first ever supercar victory. And he's hanging on at the moment. Now, the first car in the field that's on a wet is Chaz Mostert. And Chaz at the moment is in position number 12, but he's 61.9 seconds away. There's 5 laps remaining, and he's, call it a minute for simplicity, because I like simple math. So you've got Mostert the first in the queue on a wet. You've got Pye with 3.3 seconds over Jamie Whincup, and you've got 5 laps remaining.
The rough deal is that the wet will be 10 to 12 seconds faster. So 5 by 12 is the 60 seconds. It's currently just over 1 minute. There's nothing in it.
There you go.
Absolutely nothing in it.
This is David Reynolds up on the outside of Shane Van Gisbergen.
Oh, he's done it again.
Hip and shoulder, and Reynolds gets out across the top of the curb there on 3. Back to the leaders. That's now 2.7 seconds. Whincup's made some ground. They'll be doing everything to keep those slick tyres away from those overpainted white lines that are out there. So the margin once again between Pye and go back to Mostert, it's now exactly 60.67 seconds. Mostert incidentally has moved up a spot on Todd Hazelwood. Murph?
As you would imagine by now, I just spoke to Matty Nielsen at Mobile 1 HSP Racing, and they are committed to this strategy, so they will not be coming in. They are, as they are on the track on slick tyres. It stopped raining down here.
And they might get away with it, Murph. So it is so dark out there at the moment outside the ComBox window, and look at this group of people in here. That's Rob Starr, Terry Kerr's in the foreground. And Rob's the engineer with his arms folded that's been with the Holden Racing team since 1991. It's his 28th year in that organisation. We missed him in Newcastle after some back surgery, and he'll be barely breathing at the moment because his guy is pushing it to the limits at turn number 15. He tries to hook 3rd gear, coming onto the straight. The thing wants to dance out from beneath him and slam into the concrete wall. He's got 2.9 seconds over Jamie Whincup. He's got 4 laps remaining, and he is still 57.5 seconds in front of the car that's best equipped to grab him, which is on wets, and that's Chaz Mostert, who's down in 11th position. So Pye is fighting for everything. He's had an up and down and difficult career. He's now found a home. You heard the boys in the lane before talking about the fact that he loves this car. And I dared to ask Zach Brown early in the weekend at a function, what would it mean to you if you could be here in Melbourne and one or both of your cars were to win, meaning the McLaren and the Holden? He said, I have actually thought about that, but I don't want to process it too much because it'd be unbelievable. It might well happen. It could be on the cards this afternoon if the current form continues. And look at this. Percat is getting all over the back of Jamie Whincup. This is for another position up the podium if Percat can make it work. This is the battle for 2nd and 3rd.
Look at those gaps. The graphic shows you the gains that Percat has made on Whincup. So Percat's got real speed. You can hear Rob Starr, who is one of the most experienced race engineers in pit lane. He's talking to Scott Pye to coax him home here. Scott Pye's going to the gap for Whincup, but that gap soon will be Percat because Percat looks like he's going to grab him.
54 seconds back to Chaz Mostert in 11th place. 3 laps remaining. Cushions are tightening between 2nd and 3rd. It's officially 0.4 of a second. If Percat can clear Whincup, he will be a threat on current lap speed to Pye. But they're running out of time. They're running out of light, and they're running out of grip.
And the issue is that now that it's stopped raining, the gains that we spoke of with Mostert, they won't be as much. It'll actually start to come back the other way.
You're not going to make 55 seconds in 3 laps. No. So the gain that we were seeing a few laps ago is already diminished. This is the battle.
Tanner's not in it.
He's out of step there at the moment, so he's actually 26th in the field after going off the road. We saw him pointing in the wrong direction a little bit earlier. So 2.7 seconds Pye to Whincup. Here it is. The battle for 2nd and 3rd. Nick Percat in the blue Holden Commodore, tucked right in behind Jamie Whincup. There's the leader. There's 2nd, and there's 3rd with the headlights on. James Golding down at turn 12. It will be super slippery there. It is major slippery, so much so that he's half rotated it. Does it stay off the wall? Oh, brilliantly held. Brilliantly held. and has just rotated to the inside. He's full left lock. He's grabbed the brake and then just blessed himself and looked up at the end of it and gone, thank goodness, no wall there.
Exactly. That was very lucky at the end. We've seen a lot of cuts.
That problem here, that was Pye. Pye could lose the lead here to Whincup. So Pye, a mistake at turn 13. There's now nothing in it for the lead of this motor race. This is very high stakes on the streets of Melbourne. They are battling for the lead. They cannot see. It's so wet out there. There's no light. There's no grip, but there's major points up for grabs. There's 0.3 of a second covering the top 3 cars.
This is incredible stuff. Scott Pye has driven so well on the cusp of winning his first race. Check this out. David Couchy on the bottom of the screen talking to Whincup. Up the top is the Walkinshaw Andretti United crew trying to get him home, trying to get this done.
Unbelievable pressure. 2 laps remaining. This is race 5 of the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. This is real racing. Battling away out there at the moment on a Dunlop Supersoft slick tyre on a wet track. Scott Pye fighting for his very first victory. Jamie Whincup's had a pile of them, and Nick Percat's got a lot to prove here as well. The 4th car in the queue is out of play, but not go 0.1% too far and be too greedy under brakes, too greedy on the throttle, too greedy in the mid-corner.
Well, that was the thing that cost Scott Pye at turn 13. It lost 3 seconds, which was the total gap that he had at that point. It looks like when he recomposed himself, he's actually got a little bit of margin on Whincup. So he's driven so well, but as you said, mentally, you are totally drained and fatigued at the end of these races. These races are harder on you than the ones that are physically demanding like Adelaide.
So he stays off the curbs, the race leader. He's driving the thing as straight as he dare, not bursting into wheel spin. He'll be short shifting. This is where he came unglued earlier on, stays away from the lines, points the car straight, feeds the throttle in gently. Look at the overrun on the engine on the trail throttle. You can see a little bit of that unburnt Shell Racing fuel trailing out of the exhaust into turn 15. This time through, it'll be 1 lap remaining. This is the battle. This is first, second and third. It's the Coates Hire Melbourne 400, race 5 of the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. They're going to need miners' lights to be able to get to the end of this one. Check out the visibility in the cockpit. Unbelievable wheel spin coming out of the last corner. 0.5 of a second the gap between Pye and Whincup. What a race this is. If Pye can win it, it is a maestro performance. Can he do it? He's got the 7-time champion right behind him.
Oh, stop the curb. I thought he hit the curb too hard there. Scott Pye on the cusp of a career-changing moment. His first victory is roughly 4 kilometres away.
No light, no grip, and absolutely no room for error out there at the moment. This is turn 4. Whincup's even closer. Pye feeling the pressure. He's done a lot of supercar racing now. He's been through a lot of heartbreak. He's had to fight his way back into the game, and he's on the cusp at the moment of picking up his first ever victory. This is an unbelievable drive, and it's not done yet.
And will Whincup have a dive? Will he have a dive? He was so desperate at the start. Will he have a dive?
We know he's a racer. We know it matters to him. Race wins are what matters to Jamie Whincup, and he is well and truly in contention here. Meantime, his champ rivals in cars 12 and 17, Coulthard and McLaughlin, they're down in 12th and 15th at the moment. We're coming up to turn number 11, and Whincup is closer, Mark. So Whincup could actually have a bit of a crackdown here at turn 13. This is the high-speed left and right-hander at 11 and 12. They are on the absolute ragged edge of grip as they come out of 12. Pye can't afford to touch that curbing. Watch out when they get down to turn 13, and then watch again when they get to the second last corner at 15. Pye hanging on by a car length here at the moment. He's got absolutely nothing left, and he almost oversteps it into 13. He manages to wrestle the thing round the corner. Percat has lost a little bit of ground in third. He might be there. He's got to be mistake-free to the second last corner. A critical braking application now for car number 2 for Scott Pye. He's got round the corner. He glides the thing out there in second gear. He grabs third. Whincup still throwing it at him. Check out the reaction in the Walkinshaw garage. They will go to the line. Absolutely nose to tail. Scott Pye, that is a magician's performance. Well done on the streets of Melbourne. 100 points. Check that out for a drive.
Wow, have a look at the reaction. Check out Robbie Starr. When first win. He beat the man who's had 109 wins. It's well done, mate. Great job for the team, and that's a great level of camaraderie between those two guys. And for Mobil, 25 years they've been with this team. What a great sign at this event for them and their consistency.
And I've got Zach Brown here, mate. Welcome to V8 Supercars.
Hey,
what do you reckon of that?
I'm happy to be here. I'm going to come more often. This was, what a drive. What a drive. Great team effort. James did unbelievable. So, great race at the Australian Grand Prix.
Can you believe it? It's dark out there. We've had rain, we've had sunshine, we've had everything going on. And Scotty Pye, that's got to be, I think it's safely to say, the drive of his life.
I think it's about as good of a drive as I've ever seen. I mean, he earned it. That was awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What a moment for him and for everybody inside that garage. Look, I'm looking out the complex window. Dead set. I'm going to have to get a dolphin torch to find my way back to the compound. I've got no idea where it is in the dark, and I'm scared. What a race. What an unbelievable race. Some of the supercar racing that we've seen in the recent past is just, I'm in awe of what these guys are capable of doing, and the girl out there as well. Fantastic motor racing. And really, you can throw that comment across a whole bunch of people out there.
You've got to go to the podium.
So when you think about Windcup's drive, Percat, Courtney, Slade, all those drivers, they've just done an unbelievable job to battle home on a super soft tyre on a wet track with no light out there. And stand and salute. What a great performance. Great camaraderie between all the top drivers out there, acknowledging each other and giving each other a wave, going, wow, how's that for a race? Look at that. A little ray of sunshine. Well, there's a little ray of sunshine on Scott Pye there at the moment, 100 points worth. So very cool performance for him. So Scott Pye, Jamie Whincup, Nick Percat, unbelievable car race.
And tonight, Neil, you get back to the hotel, or you get out of the car now, you see the reaction of the team and all the things that are great about this team sport. But you get back to the hotel, you maybe have a quiet beer and you think, wow, this is an unbelievable day for this young man.
And it's so non-standard. You know, it's not about the tiny half turn of ride height, the little click of rebound or bump in the dampers or a few pounds of spring. It's just about that innate driver stuff, the ability to be able to read a car, read the conditions, get the most out of it, and not blink, not actually spray it and make a mistake. That's the bit you admire, because there's nothing you can do from an engineering sense at that point other than get out there and do what you're paid to do.
100%. You can change the brake bias, you can tweak the sway bars, but other than that, you've got to drive the car. And the next thing is, you contemplate all the stuff that's gone on with Scott. He's had a rough ride. We've seen some big accidents when he first came into this sport. He's only 28. There's only been roughly 75 men in the history of this game to win a Supercars or Touring Car Championship race.
Look at this. Let's soak it up.
This will do his confidence so much good, Cropper.
This will be a great team reaction.
There's Robbie Starr. Check this out.
Broke the virginity camp.
On you, Robbie.
I haven't heard that one for a while.
And he's seen one or two drivers through that team over a long period of time. He's got a very dry sense of humour, Rob Starr. He's engineered a great performance there.
And he's a very, very good winner, a very below average loser, Rob Starr, but a very, very good winner.
Car number 2, Mobil 1 Boost Mobile Racing. Scott Pye grabs the victory over Jamie Whincup in a mega performance for the incredible, crazy, tiny margin of 0.2 of a second. Here's Rihanna.
Scott Pye, congratulations. It is pitch dark. You had everything thrown at you, and I think that is absolutely the drive of your career. Well done.
Yeah, it has to be. It's the first win, but just speechless. Yeah, it's just a really special moment. And, yeah, thanks to all the boys. Mega job. Stop. That was a tough race, and I have someone like Jamie behind you. It's a long way, but, yeah. Anyway.
I can tell this is a really emotional moment for you. You've got the Formula One paddock right behind us. You're about to stand on the Formula One podium. What does it mean?
It means the world. Like, you know, obviously we all have families. We all work hard for this, and yeah, it felt like it's taken a long time. But my dad's up there. He could have helped a bit more with the weather, but yeah, obviously I miss him, and this is for him today. But obviously all these boys as well. I can't thank them enough for giving me a car good enough to get the win.
Your first victory in Supercars, but you had to work for it. Talk us through those last laps. You're on slick tyres in this rain. What was it like?
Yeah, I was screaming at Starry to help me. You know, let me know what everyone's doing. I was trying to hang in there. We had a good gap, and I just wanted to push out of the pit lane and try and pull away so that we could manage the tyres. And car was mega in the dry. In the wet, I think we fried the rear tyres a little bit. But yeah, holding Jamie back there was good fun. Now when I reflect on it, at the time I was hating every moment of it. I wish the race was shortened at that point, but no, mega race, and I just couldn't be happier right now.
Scott Pye, you're a Supercar winner. Go up there and enjoy that podium. Well done.
Great scenes. Tremendous to see the team celebrating. Huge emotional breakthrough moment. Co-owners Zach Brown and Ryan Walkinshaw joining in there to say well done. Matt Nilsson was there as well, one of the senior engineers. And let's confirm those results again for you. 0.2 of a second, the gap between Scott Pye, Jamie Whincup, and then Nick Percat, Tim Slade, James Courtney. They're all superstars. Craig Lowndes, Mark Winterbottom, to drive in those conditions and to survive, to get points, to get home with absolutely no grip in the most treacherous of conditions. It's not so bad when you've got the wet tyre on the car. Even that's not easy in any circumstances, but to do it with a slick tyre, that's impressive, Mark.
Very impressive. And Chaz Mostert was the first of those guys that were on the wet tyre, Neil. But check this out. What a battle it was. And the aggression from Whincup. How's that one? Down through the grass, and check Percat, brake lock, gets it turned, and this mistake. From first to sixth. For the young man from New Zealand, that was a monster mistake. Could have been worse. Could have parked himself in the gravel trap and not been able to get out. But he did. And as you can see there, he wouldn't have been happy with all those cars going by him. Scott Pye drove faultlessly. Beautiful car control. And then all the dramas of the pit stops, because people were trying to get this undercut. A little bit of contact there with Will Davison and Rick Kelly in the pit lane. The undercut benefit is there, but the problem is that hurts the tyre so much. That was a penalty for James Courtney down the inside of Craig Lowndes. 5 seconds will be added to his race time. And there's our current championship leader coming in. And he had a little drama with his teammate, with Craig Lowndes. They ended up making contact down at turn 3. Pretty lively battle, wasn't it?
It was a great battle. In fact, there were plenty of those going on up and down the field at the moment, and this is a bit weird when you see teammates getting into each other down there at turn 3. So Craig Lowndes and Shane Van Gisbergen just having a little rub on the run down there. But tremendous motor race. I thought, according to the calendar, that we were supposed to night race at Sydney Motorsport Park later in the year. It turns out we're doing it in Melbourne in March. Impromptu. And it didn't cost us lights. So it was the economic version of it, the no-frills version of supercar night racing. But then some weather, and that was the wild card that was played by the Melbourne atmosphere that we thought might have been the case. Early in interviews pre-race, Kim Jones said there's no way it'll rain, so take no notice of Kim in future. And car number 34, James Golding, getting crossed up and almost whacked that wall on the inside. But it really is a hearty congratulations to Scott Pye and everybody in that group for putting together that effort this afternoon, and Scotty in particular to be able to win that race today. That is mega, and there's 3 drivers that can be equally proud of their performances today. Absolutely brilliant. Well done, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the podium for the 2018 Virgin Australia Supercars Championship, Race 5, Coat Tyre Supercars Melbourne 400 Race 3. In third place, Nick Percat of Temper Racing. Presenting the winners' trophies is Greg Allen from Coat Tyre. In second place, Jamie Whincup of Red Bull Holden Racing Team. Presented with his trophy by Greg Allen. The winning team trophy goes to Rob Starr of Mobile One Boost Mobile Racing. And now the winner, Scott Pye of Mobile One Boost Mobile Racing. The winner, presented with his trophy by Greg Allen from Coat Tyre. And in his honour, we will hear the national anthem of Australia.